So welcome everyone. My name is Nathalie Chapdelaine, speaking on behalf of the Innoweave team today for this introduction to Innoweave session. We're online. It's March 2022, and I'm with Stephanie Herr, my wonderful colleague, in this presentation today. So thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit more about what Innoweave has to offer and to seeing if it's a good fit for your organization. So before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that the McConnell Foundation our head office is located on the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka people, so the Mohawk people, here in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. So this is a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among various nations. And as my personal land acknowledgement, I reflected a lot these past days about the St. Lawrence River, which is a massive, massive river. It's so gorgeous and beautiful and powerful. And you can see it these days with all the ice floating on it and being carried down to the ocean. It's just a reminder for me how powerful nature is around us and how beautiful it is to just take the time to look at the signals that rivers and other of our relatives from the nature are sending to us, signaling to us in terms of our general common wealth and health in this territory. So voila, this is where I'm speaking from. I'm actually on that territory right now. So in this presentation about Innoweave, our aim is that you will learn about our evolution, how we started off and where we're going, the cornerstones of the program, how we work, how Innoweave works. We're going to take a few minutes, very quick overview of our major or the coaching streams that we support more these days. We're going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of everybody involved in a coaching engagement and how to navigate Innoweave should you want to apply for funding in our support. And I'm going to end this presentation with a couple real life examples about the work that some organizations have done with us in the past. So Innoweave, we started off about 10 years ago with the identification of a need. And so that need was first the recognition that doing things as usual, business as usual, was not really delivering the expected outcomes that we wanted for our communities. So what happened is that a number of partners joined up together to provide funding, so the initial funding for Innoweave. The content, so we did not create all of this content, it was already there in our ecosystem. And we partnered with tons of outreach partners to create and support Innoweave as a platform for coaching, for social innovation coaching for organizations. It's been incubated inside the McConnell Foundation since the beginning of this beautiful journey of this beautiful program. And so what we look at and what we try to do is identify a couple of approaches that might be in support to the work organizations are trying to do in very complex times, in challenges that are becoming more and more complex. And to support organizations seeing a little bit differently how they could deliver their work for greater impact. So social innovation does offer new ways of doing things, but hearing about social innovation, reading about it may not be sufficient to implementing a social innovation approach and to changing the way we do things. So that's why at Innoweave, we ended up offering like a coaching model. So where do we kind of anchor our work? And so social innovation was and still is key to the work and to the work that we do and what we support organizations to getting to and to doing. So social innovation, well, it has many definitions. Just this week, I saw another one, a little bit different than this one that you see on the screen right now. But at its core, for us, it's social innovation supports people and organizations to co-create, to learn, adapt, and scale more effective solutions to like really, really big social problems. So the objective of that being that we want to support making our human and natural systems a little bit more adaptive, and resilient. Also say that social innovation is not always something new. It might be a new assemblage of things that are already there, but the dosage and the new partnerships, and there's a component of newness, but it's not necessarily absolutely a new thing. So that's kind of the anchor points, like where we started off with our thinking about what it is that we could offer and that we could support. I'm not going to present to show the video that's linked on that page, but you will receive, or you can have access to the presentation online. Just click on the link, and I strongly invite you to go and watch this beautiful animation that explains quite well what social innovation is about. So at Innoweave, one of the things that we love and that we do our best at supporting organizations too is changing their perspective on the work that they do. So typically when I ask an organization or a person, like, what does your organization do, or what's your mission? And so oftentimes I hear answers that are like, each year we serve 2,000 youths through our, say, initiation to sports activities, but just fill the blank there and put your organization's mission. So you serve a number of people through some activities. But the perspective change actually does change the way you look at the work that you do, because if you take responsibility and if you become accountable for contributing to 2,000 youths really adopting healthy life habits, your role might be to provide initiation to sport activities, but you also understand in framing it like this that you're not the only solution to getting used to adopt healthy life habits. You might want to be partnering with other organizations, or I don't know, health services or the school board or whatever, so that if your true aim is that kids or youth adopt healthy life habits, everything is in place as like a puzzle that really fits together to getting to that kind of impact, outcome, that positive change in the life of so many youth. So that's what we mean by that perspective change. It's not just about what you do and that people love and that you get good feedback about. It's about the end game. What do you really want to contribute to as a big change in our society? So you might hold a little tiny piece of the puzzle, but that piece is yours, and do as best as you can to deliver on that mandate that you have, or that those activities that you run, but understanding where your place is within a larger context. So it starts, and we always go back to impact and the intended impact statement. What change do you want to see in the world or in your community? And what it is that you are doing about it. Not just doing, but what are you accountable for? So one of the things that we might ask you is, what can you say about the results that your organization is actually accountable for? So reducing poverty is a big, beautiful goal, but you as an organization might not be able to be accountable for delivering that. But you might be accountable for one small piece, say helping people get to their dream job. So it's really that playing field. We refer to this as a playing field. What is your the corner that you really own in this bigger picture? So do you know, in fact, what your target audience is? Again, in an example, like we want, an organization we work with, pour 3 points. Initially, they wanted to work with 4 young athletes or student athletes. So this was their target audience. But in the end, they figured out, this is not really who we can really reinforce. We should end our accountability to the coaches, the basketball coaches, who then influence the student athletes in return. So we are going to take accountability for supporting the coaches and becoming like real good life role models. And that's the end of our contribution to having kids live better lives in the future. So You see, in that target audience, it's super important that you really understand, even though you want to contribute to someone's like a big change for, say, youth, your contribution might end like one level up before that. So is it well defined? We are at Innoweave, we are always asking questions about that and really want to figure out like, who is it really that you're serving? Do you have an idea of when you expect to reach your impact? This is going to give you a target from which you can start measuring your progress towards impact. So the when, it's not really important if you actually achieve your impact, but getting that goal, that time goal, will give you the strength at organizing a little bit your learnings and your how you improve on delivering impact and maximizing your activities. So yeah, so your intent and impact statement really talks about the change that you want to contribute to and that you can make yourself accountable for. That's like really foundational to the work that we want to do with organizations. So starting from there, how do we work? So it's pretty easy. There's a number of social innovation approaches that have been selected to being part of this platform that we call Innoweave. So we support these approaches either because they're so innovative that not so many people have heard about it, but we've been here quite a long time now, and some of those approaches are reaching a point where, okay, we've heard about that already. But sometimes people have heard about them, but it's really to get to implementation and to adoption of those approaches and practices. Well, people might need an extra help. So that's why we keep supporting a number of coaching streams, a number of streams and approaches for social innovation. So in a way, we do not replace supports that are already available. I mean, some of the coaches that we work with also have a consulting practice, which is okay. And if you have the budget and if on your own timeline you want to do work with people out there, please go do. But we're here to offer a little bit of extra support for those who really cannot make it on their own, and those so to create that kind of opportunity to adopt social innovation approaches. So these approaches vary over time. We've been involved in a couple of not so many, but a couple of streams that we've said goodbye to, just because it had reached a good enough point where everybody already knew about them. And we do update the materials and how we look at those approaches on a periodically on a regular basis. So recently we just revamped or relooked a little bit at evaluation évolutive, developmental evaluation, just last year was it? Yeah. So first, these are the approaches as you can see them. The ones in like bright white are those that we concentrate our efforts on these days, in part because if you look at social finance investment readiness, well, there's other programs that have come into play in those recent years, and so we're not like the best ones to support that approach in the next while. So so yeah, we do concentrate on those that you see in like bright white, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in just a few moments on each of those. So first, how does Innoweave work? First, it's about the approaches, the social innovation approaches. Second, it's about the coaching. So the way we work is that you choose a coach to work with. So we have a list of coaches on our website, and or you can choose a coach, someone that you know of who demonstrates expertise and coaching capacities to support you with what we call a coaching project, a coaching mandate. So we chose that because one of our assumptions is that we learn best by doing by ourselves. So in this model, it's not a consultant who's going to get information from your team or your stakeholders, digest it and bring it back as a report to you, and then you try to make it work. It's really you and your team and your board of directors and your stakeholders meeting and figuring out your big questions. And the coach brings their expertise, a plan, they have tools. So they're there to support you along the way so that it's easier for you to navigate the different steps to getting to where you want to go. So the coaches, yes, they help organizations executing. Yeah. Okay. So in this model, exactly like I said, so you do the work, the coach supports you, and Innoweave funds a little bit, like funds the coach for you. And that's the third piece, funding. So within certain constraints, but we do offer funding for organization to hire a coach, to work with a coach on the different coaching streams or social innovation approaches that I will introduce in just a few moments. So the way that this works is that Innoweave has 3 funding rounds each year. Each one of them is a 2-step process. So you start by sending us your expression of interest, which is to confirm that you're eligible and that you're really a good potential fit with what it is that we're doing and we're trying to support. And then the second step in that funding process is the request for support, aka money, to confirm and add details to your application so that we fully understand the scope of work, who it is that you want to work with, why is this so important for you right now, is the timing good for your organization? Because doing this kind of work will ask for a number of hours on your team to devote to finding information, to meeting, discussing, and figuring it out with the coach. So this funding process is a competitive process. We try and do our best so that 100% of the folks who apply in the end get the funding. It's not yet true. So about 2/3 of the applicants do receive funding from us. So we try to be as clear as possible every step of the way to make sure that there's a real potential fit. And then towards the end, it's, well, you've been there before, I assume, as an organization, a community organization. It's really about how many applications we get and how many we can actually fund. So what we will be looking at is, are we really aligned? So our team knows a lot about the approaches and the process that organizations go through in their coaching mandates. And so what we will want to check with you is this a good time? Like, is this the good timing for your organization to start spending time doing this? Do you also have a very clear idea of what your intended impact is? If you don't, I'll tell you right now, we will suggest that you go into the impact and strategic clarity process, which is very intensive, and or just go back to your desk and try to figure out a little bit more clearly what your intended impact is. So I talked about the timing for your organization. Do you have time to work with a coach? And just in terms of timing, also depending on the coaching stream, it's also about, like, if there's a major leadership change, it might not be the right timing to embark on this journey. You might want to wait 3 to 6 months when things are a little bit more stabilized, and then having a coach come and, challenge you a tiny bit might be a better option. So the timing is really, really, really key for you to succeed. Also, in some cases, because Innoweave is merely a program that supports the coaching piece, but when it gets towards the coaching mandate, you should have an action plan. You should have some sort of idea of your next steps. And for doing this, like, will you have enough money? Will you have the time, the manpower to delivering on that project? So of course, we're happy to support with the learning piece, but the hope at Innoweave is that organization, when they just end the coaching, they're really able right now to jump into action and to put their plan to execution. So the funding piece is also something to have in mind to make sure that you can follow through after the coaching project is done. So the coaching streams at a glance. I will go very quickly through each of the streams because we also have recorded sessions on each one of them. Those sessions can be accessed through our website. So if you go in the coaching streams, they're all listed there, and you just go on the one that interests you, and there should be like an info or introduction session with much more details for you there. So you recognize this. Yeah, so we kind of have made 3 subcategories. So first, like clarify and align. Do you really know what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what impact you're trying to contribute to? So that would be the main anchor point for us. Some organization already have clarity, and it's great. And so perhaps in this case, growing the impact that you already have could be done through a scaling impact project, or through creating a social enterprise, or through policy engagement. And then we have the learn and adapt side of things, so developmental evaluation and impact measurement. So impact and strategic clarity. So the whole process, which I have not seen any organization do this in less than 6 months. I would even say that it generally takes like from 8 to 12 months to doing. So, but by the end, you do get clarity about your intent and impact statement, your theory of change, which is what's illustrated on that page, and the action plan, what you should be doing. The question that we get the most often is this a strategic planning process? Not really. It's like a foundational piece that comes just before, that gives a little bit more strength to your logic model, to where do you really think impact comes from, and why it is that you choose to do A, B, C, or D as activities that will contribute to that impact. And so by the end of that process, you should really understand your accountability piece as an organization, what it is that you really can change around you and take responsibility for. And this is a collective process. So as a team, you should understand the results of the process. We do not encourage people or an organization to just send 1 or 2 people to work with a coach and come back with a beautiful drawing. This is not it. This is really a process in which many of the stakeholders of your organization should all understand the same thing about the mission and the impact that you're contributing to by the end of this process. Collective impact. So this is like a next level because not only the goal of collective impact is to, a little bit like I said for impact and strategic clarity, and you do it with partners. So that adds a level of complexity to the thing, because each partner has probably a different stake or a different starting point, or they understand their mission a little bit differently. So the goal here is that only those necessary for changing something big for your target audience should be at the table. So collective impact, it's collective impact when necessary, but it's not necessarily collective impact. It's not because you are a group of 12 or 15 or 20 organizations working together that you need to put in place something like collective impact, because it will ask for a lot of meetings, alignment, shared understanding about this one population level outcome goal that you will choose to deliver and accomplish as a team, as a collective, and the how each and every one of those partners in the collective is doing their part for that one common goal. So that is very, it's not easy to understand. And the more integrated the efforts are, the more efforts it takes to make it work. So just as a pointer, delivering a collective impact approach, just getting the baseline and everybody kind of understanding the same thing and agreeing on what it is that this group should be doing, just doing that takes from 12 to 18 months. So you really have to be wanting to get into that journey. What we do know, though, is for those who are committed to a major population level outcome goal, that everybody recognizes as big, important, priority, but unless many partners come together, nothing's going to really change. This is a good opportunity for collective impact. So again, I will invite you to go on our website to learn more about this. And I also, there's multiple ways and approaches to collective impact right now throughout Canada. None of the, like all of them are good. So I'm just saying that the approach that you see on the page right now is the one that Innoweave supports. So super targeted to one population level outcome goal. So we are not starting from the baseline of like the community learning how to get together and to decide on say 5 to 8 goals. This is not where Innoweave comes in. It's like, do this, find out among those 5 to 8 goals, which one is priority, and then we can support you to getting the plan in place to moving the needle on that population level outcome goal. The next one, scaling impact. And this one, I know that just from the vocabulary, people understand in many different ways. Sorry, I changed the page. So scaling impact, there's been some writings about it. So there's 3 ways of looking at scaling. It's either scaling up, out, or deep. So the one that everybody kind of thinks about is scaling out, meaning you have one program that works really well in one neighborhood and you want to replicate it in the other 3 neighborhoods in your area. So that would be scaling out. So what scaling should be about then is understanding what's in the secret sauce or the magic ingredients that actually drive impact, and how to identify those magic ingredients in different settings. So replicating a program or a model does not always work by just copy pasting it. You need to adapt it. And so that's why you might need to work with a coach to really figure things out and really come up with a plan that you're confident that when you change the geography of your initiative, you might still really drive impact by doing it. The scaling up piece is more about, so we have an example on the presentation that you might check on our website. It's about the MAD and ADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So basically, it was about changing public policy so that in the end, people stopped taking their cars after drinking. The scaling deep is more about culture change. So accepting neurodiversity in the workplace, things like this. How do you go about making that change that will affect a large number of people? But the approaches are very different depending if you're looking at scaling up, out, or deep. So what we are going to look at if you do ask for our support in scaling impact is, have you already demonstrated a clear impact? And have you already started to explore a little bit like the different scaling impact strategies? So again, please go on our website to learn more about that. Just a note here, important to mention, so I'm going to say it. Increasing one's market is not for Innoweave scaling impact, even though the word might say like, I'm scaling because my market is growing. Great. Clearly you have more impact, but this is not the kind of work that Innoweave typically supports. Social enterprise, yeah, this is one that's already got a lot of uptake in our country. So I might not need to spend too much time on it. It's just to highlight that, yes, a social enterprise has a multiple bottom line. So building a social enterprise or wanting to create one needs to be on at least 3 pillars: the business success, the contribution to the mission of your organization, and to the organization itself, because you're going to generate new revenues that might also support the mission of your organization. So what Innoweave supports in that big field of creating social enterprises, we can support feasibility studies and the development of a business plan when there's already a feasibility study done. Policy engagement. This one is I love because it's all about dialogue, basically. It's about really understanding, communicating, and working with policymakers, practitioners, organizations, blah, 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 and whatnot, so that you can advance the impacts that your community is seeking. This is not just advocacy. It's not about saying, hey, we figured it out and you policymaker should just support and adopt our point of view. It's about really understanding with the policymakers the context, the priorities, and how you can align at some point to make a big change. So this is pretty interesting. It's a little bit changing our relationship with policymaking. So if policy engagement might be one of your strategies as an organization to deliver impact. Oh, this one I love, impact measurement. So we've been asked for so many years to work on that because it's good to have a theory of change and an intended impact statement, but then what do you do? Well, it's good to have tools to measure progress towards impact. So impact measurement is not just about measuring the impact. It's also about learning and re-injecting in the work of the organization those learnings so that the next decision is better informed and so that you can maximize and generate more impact. So there's multiple reasons why one would want to measure impact. There's multiple contexts, multiple approaches and whatnot. So this coaching engagement might help you figure out what is really needed for you, either to demonstrate impact or to learn through which of your activities do you maximize your impact. So yeah, I love this one. I think everybody needs that, including Innoweave, clearly. And it's a never-ending process so, because we always learn. So yeah, impact measurement. Developmental evaluation, and I love this, how this is portrayed here. It's not replacing summative or formative evaluation. It's merely a new assemblage, a new way of putting together evaluation methodologies at a very specific time for organizations and collectives. So it's really either because you're creating something new, something has majorly changed, you lost half of your funding and you want to understand, oh boy, what do we do now? So it's really about that idea of complexity, newness, or you're creating something. And so developmental evaluation should be in real time, meaning in real time as you're developing something new or trying to figure out something really complex, you get feedback loops and you get you get a coach's help to figuring out what would be the best tool and what is the actual good question to ask. So typically in developmental evaluation, you answering yes no question is not part of developmental evaluation. It's more what generates more of, or where do we improve our impact, or those like how questions, not the if we do this, do we attain X. So it's really that element of complexity that can be supported, or perhaps not tackled, but clarified through developmental evaluation. So I've spoken about the different approaches. You understand that Innoweave is all about coaching. There's funding available, but say you do get some funding from us, who does what? How does the coaching mandate operate? So as the funded organization, you're in charge of deciding who's going to be part of your working team. So typically, we really strongly encourage people to form a team of 3 to 6 people who are available and who are able to influence change internally. Because it's no use for having very passionate people of social innovation do this work and then not being able to have the CEO adopt the approach and really put the money or the time into doing something differently afterwards. So that's why there's 3 stars on the right-hand side of your screen right now. And keep in mind, thinking differently needs lots of loops of learning. So you might hear about the approach once, you might need to revisit like a couple of times so that in your mind, as just anybody who might be in touch with the project, you eventually really get it. But as the ones who might be doing a social innovation project, don't expect that people get it from the get-go. It takes time to adopt a new approach. So that's why we strongly recommend that this is a team effort, and that the leadership team is really on board with this. So you're the ones executing the work. Like I said, the coach is going to support you, but it's not the coach's role to write the documents and to call the meetings and whatnot. It's really your organization doing the work. And thirdly, sometimes when we have someone coming from like external contributor, we look at that person for guidance. But in the end, it's really your organization's choices and strategic decisions. So in that relationship with the coach, it's really you who are making the strategic choices, guided, supported by the coach, of course, but it's really up to you to decide. So the coach, I already talked about this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this page, but basically they are going to share their expertise with you and support you in a process that will get you to clarity about how to implement the project that would maximize your impact. As for Innoweave, our role is starting now and sharing as much information as we can and doing our best to identify which groups are in the best position to receiving the support, the coaching support. So it's really about alignment. Our work is about supporting that element of identifying the success factors and who's ready to embark on one of those coaching journeys. And throughout the mandate, it's really the magic happens with the coach, but here and then we come up for a call and want to learn alongside you, because we see our role as learners and being able to bring this learning back into the community for the other organizations who are going to follow you in their coaching journeys. So how to navigate the program. So engage and inform, like we're doing today. We have info sessions, some are live, some are recorded and available on our website. We have a couple of resources. I've heard that they're useful. You get to decide. So go on our website. There's a session just for resources, and in each of the streams, you will get specific resources that relate to the topic that's of interest to you. And please check out our FAQ live sessions. They're coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if after this call, not all of your questions have been answered, you can come back in one of those live sessions, which are group learning opportunities for everybody. Then get ready. So we have self-assessment tools. It's basically 5 questions, but they are going to give you like that how do you say that? Note to self kind of thinking. If you have not thought about XYZ, you will see it in those questions. So it's a tool to help you see if you're ready to embark on one of those social innovation coaching journeys. We strongly encourage you to talk to a coach before applying. So there's a list of coach on our website, or you can select a coach, like I said earlier, that presents the right expertise and solid coaching skills for you and your team. And register on our online platform, which is called Flux. And just a little warning, don't wait at the last minute before the next expression of interest deadline, because we need some time to approve each new registration. So do this as soon as you know that you have a strong enough interest in applying for Innoweave funding. So these are the dates to keep in mind. Our next expression of interest deadline is April 15th, but whenever you listen to this presentation online, you have all the dates there. And just to highlight towards the right-hand side of the screen, you will see logically, if you do get an invitation to submit a request for support, say on June 1st, we are going to need 6 to 8 weeks to get back to you. So logically, the coaching mandate may only start as early as of August, possibly September. So just know that in terms of your planning process for doing it. That's just another way of looking at the same information I just shared. And then I love the big round red. This is where the magic happens. Implement and learn. Well, this is what I, Nathalie, am personally passionate about. It's all about the learning and implementation of those tools. So a couple of examples before I end my part of this presentation. I'm very quickly going to highlight just a couple of elements on each of those examples. So this is an example in impact and strategic clarity for the Pour Trois Points organization based in Montreal. I think they're scaling now, though. They might be based in more locations. But I'll just say that in this one pager, you clearly see their intended impact statement at the top of the page. You can clearly identify who their stakeholders are, the coaches, the student athletes, and the schools and guardians as well, a little bit in a different way. And the strategies for each of those stakeholders, or you could say beneficiaries or target audiences, it really depends on your vocabulary in your organization. So you really, really see what the strategies are and what the different kind of outcomes might be on the short term, long term, and the ultimate good or the ultimate goal. So this is a very good example of a theory of change. The next example is the furniture bank. This one I personally love because we see the progress in how they did revisit, like on a really regular basis, their theory of change. So I'm just leaving here for you to read later on their intended impact statement, but just look visually at how this changed. You might start your theory of change on like, just a piece of paper, a couple of drawings that kind of illustrates what it is that you do. So you already can identify Toronto. There's like a bank, and then there's a truck that's carrying goods, possibly to houses. So just there, it's really clear what it is that they're doing. That they ask for a proper designer to do this, wonderful. But then you will see that it gets a little bit more detailed as they were revisiting and revisiting what it is that they're actually doing. So the more they tested this theory of change, the more they learned, and the more precise they were able to be about their own accountability regarding their outcomes and the ultimate impact that they're contributing to. Another quick example is the Centropole Roulant. So they did an impact measurement, or they did an evaluation survey to really measure, is it true that we help break social isolation? Because what they do is that they prepare meals for people who are isolated in their homes, and folks on bikes deliver those meals. So one of their assumptions is that they were contributing to reducing isolation because someone, a real person, was delivering a meal to those isolated people. But doing that measurement, impact measurement piece, they actually were able to see that, oh my gosh, not so much. We do deliver very good meals, but we cannot take accountability for reducing social isolation just because now and then we knock on their door and we bring them food. So they had two choices. If they did want to contribute more to reducing social isolation, then they would have to create a new program, or they stopped taking accountability for that outcome and just focus on what they already did super well. This next one is on policy engagement. You see the word advocate. Oh, I had a round thing there. Oh, there it is. Okay. So you see one of their strategy is to advocate. But like I said earlier, policy engagement is not just about advocating. It's about sharing and understanding with the policymaker what can be done. So it's just to illustrate that policy engagement might be one of the strategies of an organization to drive change. So that's it. I had tons of content to share today. I hope this was useful in terms of the layout of what it is that Innoweave tries to accomplish. So thank you very much for your attention. And yes, again, please check on our website, our next FAQ live sessions. This is where you can come back and ask all of your questions. So for today, we're going to stop the recording, and I'm going to turn to answering the questions for you who are on the line with me right now.